So now we move on to the psychology of fan art.
And showing, first off, mine. My older works back in 2014 of Sailor Moon. Yeah, that was kind of then. And then now I have more recent work, this was like last year, still doing fan art, but I insert original characters in there. So, yeah. So, kind of slowly drifting away from the fan art, but the basis is still the same. So, what is psychology? Let's start with that. Psychology is basically the study of the human mind and the behavior that precedes it. So, it's not so foreign for humans to actually take the latest thing and turning it into more fandom. So, think about like the recent phenomenons that we've been dealing with. Marvel, anime, video games, actually popular novels such as Harry Potter and The Hunger Games. Actually, they have something going on later on for a new book. And how they impacted our society as a whole. Also the fact that fan art is not relatively new. You can compare the fan art to people who were inspired by books like Shakespeare and Edgar Allan Poe back in the day. Students that basically followed these great big names in artistry such as Vincent van Gogh, Salvatore Dali, Picasso, and they would be considered during their time frame as fan artists. But we don't look at it that way. When we think of those big names, we're like, wow, they're the top of the top. But actually, you had students just like you guys that were interested in those particular types of styles. Fan art today. So today we're living in the age of fan art. Proven by the popularity of the Marvel cinematic movies, where superhero movies were considered to be box office bombs. Now they're blockbusters and they're Oscar-worthy. Black Panther being evidence of that. The rise of esports. Now you can get scholarships for video game tournaments and such. The widespread of anime and otaku culture. So you had like recently Panic at the Disco, Robin Williams. Keanu Reeves, all big fans of anime. Awareness in technology with the iPhone and just those particular type of fandoms becoming mainstream. A lot of the sudden growth is credited largely to social media. So Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, several others, to just name a few, have caused a huge influx of exposure to fandom. You no longer have to share these types of things by yourself. Now you can connect with people across the world within a matter of seconds to share these various interests. And for example, today's version or example of fan art, you have various different types. These are just some that I picked up. Various categories that I came up with, like for instance, shipping. For all those who are otaku fans, they wrote romance fanfics, yaoi and yuri couples, visual arts. You have shipping wars and doujin. And then you have imprinting, similar to some of you guys out there that are cosplaying. Self-insert fan fiction, OC fan visual arts. So you could have like, so like cosplay fan fiction. So like this young lady here. I'm sorry. So this young lady here and this young lady, is that over here? Wearing cosplay of Miss Marvel and having fashion design of all the Spider-Man comic books, comic book covers. That's considered, can be considered imprinting. What is it? Fan favoritism. You have things like, and then you have things like headcanon, which basically where fans come up with different types of theories after maybe a series is over, or there's a point in the series that they might have liked and sort of like analyzed it and broke it down to the point where they insert their own particular theories and viewpoints into that series. So like, for instance, Five Nights at Freddy's, the Ink Machine, Undertale, San best skeleton. So those are basically examples of fan art today. Right. So let's ask, why do we do fan art? So why do we do this out of boredom? Do we do this because it drives us? You know, anything of that nature? Well, actually, in reality, yes. A lot of fans have stated that it builds up their self-esteem. Cosplay and, you know, constantly drawing those characters, like my other panelists has stated, that, you know, they find a comfortability to constantly draw these characters to also expand on their styles. Especially pertaining to visual art, it motivates them to perfect their skills, such as, like, you could be a huge fan of Spider-Man or Goku, and, you know, while they're drawing these things, they want to continue, they want to make sure that they get every single detail correctly, like Kat stated beforehand. And by doing this, their skills continue to be nurtured and grow from this. So, and also it causes their skill to grow at a much more faster rate. You know, you have that extra push, that extra motivation, versus somebody who might be drudging with it. It might be arduous or laborious to them. They might not want to pick it up until like later on. But if you're like full on gung-ho about this type of skill, you get through it a lot more easier. As a individual who draws fan art myself, a huge otaku, I love anime, and that's where it started from. It started from a place of, here's somebody who loves video games and Sailor Moon, continued with that type of drawing, and then here I am presently as a person who runs their own little small business. The reward system. Now, it doesn't necessarily just stop from comfortability and confidence. There has to be a reward system that precedes it. It's very important when formulating fan art because you get sort of like feedback from it. And the more positive reinforcement that you get, the more it encourages you to keep on going. So when you're doing like cosplaying and people give you like little suggestions, little sound bites, or oh, that's a cool cosplay or something like that. Hey, it's like, okay, I get this little bit of spotlight, and it will encourage that person to continue doing cosplay, to continue their skill of doing that fan art.
Think about, like, especially with cosplaying, think about like whenever you have a cool cosplay on, how many times people might stop you for your photo.
Oh,
that sort of boosts the ego just like way down. Especially if they're like you've worked months or even as short a time as weeks or anything along those lines. It's one of those things where that's just gonna boost your bathroom boots.
Oh,
Yeah. Yes.
So
Very
yes.
much so.
So constructive criticism and just simple positive reinforcement can go a long way when harnessing a skill like that. So, and now to
Unfortunately, though, there is always the dark side.